Welcome back. With me today is Josh Babatunde, and we've been sharing his amazing story of a journey with his family, divorce, and what God did in his life. Thank you, Josh. Before we went on the break, I know you were expressing to us where you were in terms of your relationship with God and what was happening.
Yes.
When was the turnaround for you? One of the things we discussed was you then went on to uni at some point, and I'd asked you, did you then find uni as a what's called like an escape, like a getaway place with all that was happening, in your life and in your family's life?
Yeah. So I think for me, as I was saying to you earlier, in a bit of detail, uni wasn't an escape for me. It was almost a place where I could kind of refine myself and remodel and rebrand who I am. So the Josh in London, the pastor's son, the kid that all the parents wanted their children to be like, was not who I wanted to identify with. So when I got to uni, it was a place for me to kind of show people that I didn't know a completely different person. But as we know, anything that is a copycat of an original can never honestly be the original. It will never always live up to what it's supposed to be. And that's what I found out in uni, is that when I started, getting involved in things that I shouldn't get involved in, because I was running away from who I was, it was having, a negative effect on every other aspect of my life.
And then there was also the negative effects of the anger, isn't it? So like having to be, being rebellious, just fighting things, because of what had happened to you.
Yeah, I'd got into a lot of trouble. Just personally, there was a level of anger that would come upon me that I could feel even without the Spirit of God telling me that this is dark. Like this is like it's almost evil. It's like it's come from an abyss. Like it's not something that any human should engage with. And as a result, it led me to really just not care. So when you get to the point where anger has taken over you so much that you don't actually care about the consequences, you've become almost immune to it. So that's how I felt.
Obsession kind of like
absolutely.
I just need to touch back on the fact that, again, you mentioned the pastor's kid, the pressure. We can't ignore that comes with your role and the expectation. And like I was saying, pastors' children are also children. It's not like you guys jump down from heaven and you're immune to everything that everybody else does. It's the same blood, the same,
Absolutely.
In your space, and you seem to have quite a few friends like that. How has that been for you and some of your friends?
I mean, I would like to speak. I think I could possibly speak on behalf of pastors' children when I say that we genuinely want to be treated as human beings, and we genuinely do love God. But sometimes, because our parents are on such a pedestal, it makes the way we live our lives and what we do almost seem like it's not of value. And because of who my dad is and what he's done for the kingdom, you constantly have that pressure of you have big shoes to fill. My dad, by God's grace,
even if it's not the same shoes you're supposed to be
filling. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that people don't also realize is that God may call a man in his in his generation, like David, to fight, but then he can call Solomon to build and to not fight. And I think that the reality is that David and Solomon were still in line with God's will for each other's life, but someone had to lay the foundation, someone else had to build. So same line of ministry, just two different ways. And that's where God began to teach me about the definition of calling and purpose. God started to teach me that my purpose was to worship him. That's the reason he created me. But the calling of him, the calling of God on my life was in different places. So that's in music, that's in media, that's in business. Whereas my dad, it's in preaching, it's in missions, and it's in doing different things. We're still both doing ministry, the work of God.
It's all for the kingdom, isn't
exactly.
it? Yes.
So it's just the way that it's dispersed.
Also, when you were in uni, you encountered your current wife.
Yes. By the grace of God. Yes, I did.
And how was that for you? Because normally, well, it would be understandable, don't let me say no, but I mean, if after what you've experienced,
yes,
you then say to myself, you know what, this thing called marriage,
yeah,
ain't for me.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, culturally speaking, it's a taboo in you know, in my culture for divorce. It's not something that is ever smiled upon. It's heavily frowned upon, and obviously as well biblically as well, it's not something God likes. So when I got to uni and I met Danielle, I instantly, you know, as much as I found her attractive, I had built up such a wall where I thought there is no level of attraction that will allow me to let you in, because I've already seen what happens when marriage goes wrong. And for me, you know, one thing that I've always heard is that the greatest lesson we failed to learn from history is that we actually failed to learn from history. And for me, I didn't want that for myself. I knew that one day I'll be a potential father to children, and I can't marry someone and have my children go through exactly what I went through. I felt like I'd be doing them much more of an injustice because my parents had never experienced divorce. So as someone who is, you know, literally experiencing this for the first time in our family, I felt like the onus lied on me to kind of take control. But unfortunately for me, in taking control of that, it obviously meant that I wouldn't be with Danielle today. And I honestly will be I'll be stopping what God wanted to actually do through my lineage. So God, brought Danielle at the right time.
What turned that around for you? What broke that wall, that barrier?
So there were two men of God. They're very well known. I hold them dear to my heart. They're twin brothers. One is called Tomi and one is Toby Arayomi. They're twin. They're very, very sharp prophetic men of God, and God used the both of them on August 14th, 2015 to prophetically speak my ministry, my calling, everything that I was to do in my life moving forward. God used them to dissect that, and the first thing that they said was that God will start to heal my heart and start to, you know, break down all these trust issues, especially with females. So it wasn't trust issues with just people, but with females. So I didn't trust females. So they would come with good intentions, but I just wouldn't trust that good intention, because I think you want to associate yourself with me because of what you can get, but I think that you probably might end up hurting me. So I can't let you further than this. So you want to meet up, I'm not meeting you. Like, I'm not, you know, talking to you. I'm talking to you on my terms. Everything is going to be on my terms. And that's a very selfish place to come from, you know.
But which is appreciable from where you were coming from.
Yes, exactly. So,
and that prophetic message that they gave you, you said there were two parts of it. That was the first one. Was the second one to do with?
So the second was to do with actually encountering Danielle as a person. And I can't express or put into words how grateful I am for giving me Danielle as not just, you know, a woman and a wife, but an actual helper, because it really reminded me of what Eve was supposed to be to Adam, someone who was actually supposed to help, you know, Adam. And God has used Danielle to actually help me not just understand that it's okay to be myself, but to also appreciate, you know, and sort of just love who I am regardless of where I'm coming from. Because, you know, as I said in the beginning, divorce is a taboo. So, you know, I don't want to speak for families, but I know that most families are very particular on families that they engage with. You know, and for her, it was like she didn't care where I was coming from. She knew about what happened, but she had understood and come to terms with the fact that this is the person that God has called me to be with. So whatever his past is saying about him is not what God is saying about his future. And because she was able to see beyond my past and present, it really, really helped me to understand, you know, how God viewed me. And that's where we are today, you know, by God's grace.
You know, when you had a young man talking so passionately about their wife, it just makes me happy. Because, you know, there's quite a lot of negativity in the world about divorce, about marriages, and, you know, young people not wanting to. So when I hear that, you know, and for me, that healing process obviously started for you to be able to let her in and then build what you've been able to build. Just going forward in terms of your life, where are you now? You know, what are you doing now? What are your aspirations? As we just start to round up in terms of working in your own. You don't go to the same church as your dad.
No, I don't. So currently I attend House on the Rock, the London Lighthouse. It's pastored by Pastor Temi Odejide.
Okay.
Love that man to bits. He has literally just taken me in and just really helped me. And as well, our senior metropolitan pastor of all House on the Rock, Pastor Paul Adebajo, who, funnily enough, preached today as well on identity. So so God's word was definitely there for me. So where I am now is I've just moved into my new place. I'm living away from home now as I start this journey, and I'm also working for the local government in Kent. So I work in civil engineering. I've been doing that for just over a month, and it's been going good. So I'm getting used to this adult life where you have to actually pay bills, and you wake up, the bills don't vanish; they're still there.
They're still there, very real. They're waiting for you.
Yeah, they are waiting for me. You know, British Gas will soon start knocking on my door, and kids soon, but not too soon. So yeah, we're not rushing into that yet.
Okay. Yeah. So in line with what your purpose is, and in line with what you've, the work you've worked. And where you are now, and in relation to the fact that you are your own person, and not necessarily, you did say something about, that shadow of constantly always being in the shadow of your parents, because, they're quite well-known pastors. How were you able to express yourself, who you are now, your identity? Tell us a bit about that. That you don't, and in your new church, because you don't have to live on their shadow. Things are not being.
Yes. I think that's a very good question. I think for me, the most important thing that I had to just come to terms with is that my parents love me. Number one, their love for me will never change, regardless of what their circumstances may present. They've sacrificed too much and done too much for me to ever think that they genuinely don't love me. And I won't wait till they get to their grave to let them know that. And so for me, every single day is an opportunity to tell my dad that, hey Pops, hope you're good, love you, miss you, respect you. Likewise with my mum as well. You two don't have to be the best of friends, but I owe you honor, and I genuinely want a relationship with you. Whether it goes back to what it was is another thing, but I genuinely want that. And I think for me, now being in House on the Rock, what it has done is it's helped me to actually understand that, I don't have to work for anything. And what I mean by that is God used my pastors to help me to understand that Christ is the one who lives in me and works through me. So everything I do isn't actually me doing it. It's actually him doing it through me. I'm just, allowing myself to be available and a vessel. And as a result of that, it allows me to not go to church thinking that I have to uphold an image or serve my pastor to be in his good books. It's a matter of just living the way I'm supposed to live. And it makes me number each of my days, because as much as I might be 24 and as much as my parents wish for long life and as much as I want a happy and long marriage and want to raise kids and all these great stuff, really and truly, I want to be in the will of God. And that's the most important thing to me, and I don't just say it like it really is what my life is becoming. And I always look at Christ as my example. 33 years and he's still the most talked about man today. So I don't,
that's where we're sitting here.
So I know my mum wouldn't, watch this and, be happy with me saying I'd love to die at 33 because she wants to have grandkids. Like I'm probably going to start hearing that soon. But the point of what I'm saying is that I don't feel like I need to live up to any standard. And I don't feel like my parents necessarily put that pressure on me intentionally. It just comes with the territory. And
the position, really.
And moving forward, if God calls me into a position of leadership and I have kids, I just want them to be able to be themselves, and not feel like they have to impress daddy or mommy. So, yeah.
And, it usually comes with... if you're a pastor's child, you usually will be in your father's church.
Yes.
Which you're not, but wherever you are,
Yeah.
you are still expressing
Yes.
and
Yes.
being who God has called you
Yes.
to be.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a
Church.
pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for being bold to open and to share your experience.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I think your parents should be absolutely proud of you. And I think
thank you.
that young lady Daniel has a good man on her hands. I just want to pray that God will continue to guide you.
Amen.
And you will,
Amen.
fulfill purpose
Yes.
and walk in His will.
Amen.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Next week on Story Before Glory.
When we went on this game show, there's like games that you play, singing and all of that stuff. So that's actually how my husband now saw me through the game show. And he was also on the game show.